Hello, Space Junkies, and welcome to episode 166 of What a Piece of Junk, the Star Wars podcast here on the Fandom Podcast Network. I am your host, Scott Botman, and joining me is my original podcast co-pilot, Mr. Derek Marsh. Derek, how's it going?
Happy May the 4th be with you, Scott.
May the 4th be with you. Yes, indeed, sir, and also with you.
Yes. It's an exciting day. We are actually recording on May 4th. It's a Sunday this year. I had some things planned out to actually do the one time where actually you can like binge some Star Wars. But the weather's been cruddy around here. I don't know if it's been just nonstop raining there in the Charlotte, Lower North Carolina area. And so like a lot of Sophia's spring activities were going to be canceled anyways. And Christina got a great deal on Great Wolf Lodge here just outside of Cincinnati, which is like an hour and a half from us. So we picked up our bags and just made a quick weekend out of it. So
that's cool. We have a Great Wolf Lodge over in the Charlotte area as well. So I haven't ever been, but it looks really neat.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I mean, just the fact that, like I said, you can go rain, snow, or sunshine. You got the park, and it's nice inside. And then they got all sorts. They got Magic Quest. I don't know if you've ever seen that before, where it's like the wand and stuff. So Sophia's got that. So we defeated the evil dragon this morning before we left. So awesome. Sophia was super excited with that. But yeah, so just did that for a quick Saturday and then all the way through the night, and then left this morning and got back this afternoon and to getting ready for the week. Cause again, you know, we got to go back to work tomorrow already and I got to travel to Detroit. So, but ready to talk some Andor episodes 4 through 6 with you guys today.
Yeah. And you know who else is ready to talk about Andor? That is our original Dave Filcloni, our very own Gooey Chewy, our man of 1,000 nicknames, Mr. Miracle himself, Nathan Miracle. Oh, wait, and now he's the man in the black hat.
That's right. It is, in fact, Star Wars Day, and I'm sorry I can't keep the hat on because it doesn't go over the headset. But it is Star Wars Day, and I did wear the hat to be Dave Filcloni all day today, and I got more than a couple of comments of Happy Star Wars Day, May the 4th be with you. Nobody specifically said, hey, Dave, but I like to think that they got it.
It counts.
I would hope so, considering they actually said it to you. So.
But it was a good day. I watched Tales of the Underworld today. Now, we're not going to be talking about that on the podcast. We're going to save that for a little bit later. But
good, because I haven't had time to watch it yet.
Yeah, quick synopsis. Yay or nay?
Yes, yay or nay. So
the answers are both.
I would say entertaining, but not particularly important to anything.
Okay, not as strong as Tales of the Jedi or Tales of the Empire.
Yeah, like watch it if you want to. If you don't, you're not really missing any critical details. Now, for big Star Wars fans like us, the opening of the first episode is probably the most important out of the whole thing. So watch for like 5 minutes and then from there on out, it's kind of, do you want to keep watching or not?
I'll watch.
All right, cool. Well, I'm glad that you got to do that on Star Wars Day. I have done some Star Wars-y things, and I am wearing an appropriate Star Wars shirt, which I'll show a little bit later in the show. But also, on Tuesday of this past week, my sister, who is a missionary in Tasmania, messaged me to be all like, hey, Scott, this Sunday is Star Wars Day, May the 4th, but it also happens to fall on the first Sunday in the month of May, which means I get to go speak at Pub Church. And I was like, Steph, what is Pub Church? And she's like, well, we actually go to a local pub, which is, again, what they call bars in Australia. And we get to stand up and talk about our church. Different churches do it at different points during each month and so on. So she was like, because it's Star Wars Day, they asked me if I might know a guy about how to connect Star Wars to, talking about the Christian religion. And I was like, you don't know a guy, you know the guy. And I said,
have blood relations.
That's right. So I'm like,
midichlorians connect you.
Here are all of these things about Star Wars that are metaphors for the Christian faith. And she's like, okay, this is a lot. can we do like a FaceTime? And I'm like, yes. So at 7:45 a.m. Wednesday morning on the train to Raleigh, I was FaceTiming my sister all the way on the other side of the planet at 9:45 at night on Thursday, so that she could talk to me from Australia. And it was so great because it was a cool topic. And I was like, well, Steph, a lot of people are going to tell you that maybe you should talk about Obi-Wan Kenobi sacrificing himself for Luke and Han and Leia and all the people in Episode 4 and the original Star Wars from 1977. But I think that you should talk about Qui-Gon Jinn, the most Christ-like figure, especially the Western interpretation of Christ, in all of Star Wars Skywalker saga, and his struggles to convince the organized religion of his time to reinterpret messianic prophecy, and then, of course, also facing off against the devil, who is Darth Maul. And they even had to fight each other in a desert. I mean, come on, what more? Just Lucas is hitting us over the head with it. And so she was like, wow, this is amazing. And she's like, I need to go back and watch The Phantom Menace. I didn't think about it in that way, and I probably haven't watched it since last century. And I'm like, hey, if I can get my sister to watch more Star Wars, this is a win-win. And so things went very well at the pub on Star Wars Day. There's an excellent photo that she posted on Facebook of her with a PowerPoint presentation using images of Qui-Gon versus Darth Maul that I had sent to her, and she's holding her green lightsaber. Go, Stephanie. I love you very much. So, yeah, it was an awesome Star Wars Day. And now I'm glad to hear Nathan say that Tales of the Underworld is pretty good for hardcore fans like us. So I'm definitely looking forward to watching that. Did you guys buy anything for Star Wars Day? I didn't purchase anything this year.
No, oddly. No, a local game store of ours, the Mighty Meeple, had a big sale on a bunch of stuff, and I bought some Marvel Crisis Protocol stuff. I didn't see any Star Wars stuff that I found interesting there.
And like I mentioned, I was at Great Wolf Lodge and drove back, and Sophia had Irish dance. We had some other things. So unfortunately did not get to, I had initially earlier this past week, I had planned to actually drive over to Louisville. Was either going to do it because yesterday, May 3rd, the first Saturday of every May is Free Comic Book Day. So I was going to hit the rounds of all that stuff. And then I was going to then, hit the local stuff here on Sunday. For being Star Wars Day. But since it got changed to that, I know. But like I said, mentioned Scott, like I'm going to go hit on my way to Detroit tomorrow. I'm going to hit some of the comic book and gaming stores that are on my way up to Detroit up 75, specifically over in the Toledo, Ohio area, right before I cross over the border, to check out some of the local gaming stores in that area to see those few things that are still escaping me to this point because I don't want to overpay on eBay or Amazon. So.
Now, I will say, though, the day is young. Her Universe has a sale that goes through midnight tonight. So
you do like those clothes?
I do like those clothes. And
are you wearing a Her Universe shirt right now with the Falcon on it there?
No, weirdly, I got this one at Target.
Okay.
I saw this and thought, man, Scott would really like this shirt.
You're right.
Wait a minute. No, I would really like this shirt. So I bought it and didn't give it to you.
Fine.
And they
want that shirt anyway. It looks stupid.
They only had one. I've never seen it at Target again.
So that is a cool shirt.
How I found it. They do have on Her Universe a solo shirt that I'm eyeing and have been eyeing for a while.
The shirt for this year's May the 4th that I am eyeing is the one from the Roosevelt's crew that has it's a Hawaiian shirt button down, and the pattern is like every Star Wars, the original 1977 poster as like a repeating pattern.
Oh, cool.
So there's there's the Japanese poster, the European poster, the re-release poster,
comics.
90s, the classic one, et cetera, et cetera. Greg Hildebrandt, then the other one, Drew Struzan, et cetera. I'm like, oh, that's a great Hawaiian shirt. I don't know if I want to pay as much money as Roosevelt's asks for as a brand, but I might.
Yeah, if you don't mind, I should be able to share my screen and show you the one that I'm looking at here, and you'll see price-wise part of the reason that I'm looking at it.
Zoom in a little bit.
Is that $57?
No,
$17.
$17.60.
Oh yeah,
this is on the clearance one. Yeah.
It is. Yeah. And
but you're right. That's a cool shirt for that price.
Yeah. So the answer to have I bought anything is not yet.
Not yet.
but the night is young.
Indeed.
Yeah,
right,
I really like that one that they have at the Disney store we were talking about the other week, where it's that the Echo Base Rebel baseball jersey one where it's got the 80 on the back, Hoth, the Hoth one. I really like that one. And then, like I mentioned earlier, like those Starbucks mugs are really cool, but not $25 a piece cool. No. Like if it was like, $35-$40 for the set of 3, like cool. But they want $40 for the set of 3 that are the little ornaments. I'm like, I'm not gonna do that.
Now, see, I would pay the $25 for the Hoth mug if it came with like X number of free coffee refills at Starbucks, but it doesn't. It's just the merch.
Yeah. So otherwise, I'll just wait till they go on clearance somewhere and then get them then.
Yeah. All right, cool. Well, let's dive into this episode, or this group of episodes, this triplet of Star Wars Andor Season 2. Tonight, we'll be talking about episodes 4, 5, and 6, which are, let's see if I can do this from memory. Have you ever been to Ghorman? I Have Friends Everywhere. And what was the third one? What a Delightful Evening?
No, I Have Friends Everywhere was the last one.
Oh, then what's the middle one? Was that What a Delightful Evening?
Wasn't it?
I'll be honest, I didn't pay attention to the episode names. So,
anyways,
look here. It's Ever Been to Ghorman, I Have Friends Everywhere, and What a Festive Evening.
What a festive evening. I was so close. All right, anyway, but so we're looking at those 3 episodes, and I will start the ball rolling with you, Derek, for the opener question, the softball. What did you like best about these 3 episodes of Andor?
So I like that, at this point we do have the 1 year, again, time jump, right? So that's kind of, again, the opening and the time crawl, and where we're at. We obviously have them now established in Ghorman. And you kind of, see where they've planted the seed, and they've got Syril, doing his whole thing. I really liked like the whole like underground movement, the storyline that they did with that.
Yeah.
With the Ghormans. But honestly, my favorite part was the fact that like Cassian was like, hey, like, I'm not cool with this. Like, to me, this is not very good idea, because at the end of the day, they could pull off this heist, but then what are they going to do? Like, they're not going anywhere. They're still on the planet.
I loved him saying to him, you're going to rob the place, but you live here and you're going to stay here. He's like, this is insane.
Yeah. So like,
and then you plan to announce that you robbed them.
Yeah.
Like, this is a bad idea.
Yeah. Like, what are you going to do? Like, so I really like that. And I like the whole point of like Syril, like setting up the whole, like the little, like traps on his way, like where he was taking the string and like trying to do that to see like, oh, somebody is following me, or they, broke into my place and all that stuff. But what I really liked at the end, which was, which I really liked the most out of it, was the ending of episode 6, when, Cassian and Biggs, basically blow up and they get their revenge on Dr. Ghostface, or whatever his name is.
Dr. Gorst. Yeah.
Gorst.
Dr.
And, and he got his, just dessert, with getting the treatment right back at him. And yeah, I just was like, okay, that's the way to leave at, if you think about it, the mid-season cliffhanger. Like, that would have been phenomenal, right? Now, granted, we're going to get the next 3 episodes here for this next arc, but had you imagine watching all the way this is, over 6 weeks, and all of a sudden you get this big thing? It's like, holy moly, like, we're going to have to wait another 6 more weeks to finish up the story, other than 2 weeks. But, but to me, that was what I liked the most about it. It was like, okay, like, gloves off for Cassian at this point.
Yeah. All right, Nathan, what did you like best about these 3 episodes?
Well, a bit of compare and contrast to the last 3 episodes, which I wasn't as high on. Cassian is way more of an active participant in these episodes than he was in the first 3 episodes. I complained last time about how he spent most of the episodes as a prisoner, just waiting for the opportunity to do something. Here, he actually goes on a mission. He's an active part of it. He's making the evaluation. You see him, you see his thought process of, are these people capable? You see him realize, nope, they're tailing me. They're very bad at that. Their plans are very bad. Like, he actually does stuff. And then at the end, he helps blow up a building. And cool guys don't look at explosions, just walking away with Bix. So there was a lot that I liked about these episodes. I really liked the Ghorman fronts taking that sort of French resistance vibe. That was really cool. But I'd say the main thing was Cassian was doing stuff. And that was
Yeah.
something that was missing in the last 3 episodes. So I like
He
these
was
a whole lot
doing
better.
stuff, but he was just his hands tied while he was doing that
Yeah,
stuff.
but most of the stuff he was doing was, don't you want to go do something stupid so I can escape? No. How about this other stupid thing so I can escape? No.
Well, these people are doing something stupid, so you need to go check on them at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yep. Okay. There's something stupid enough for me to. Yep. Okay. Just walk away.
That's great.
Yeah, everybody was looking for Cassian, right? Everybody was like, "Where's Cassian? Where's Cassian? Where's Cassian?"
All right. Well, for me, the thing I liked most about these three was the writing. The writing from Tony Gilroy and crew was unbelievably epic, you guys. So there are two moments in particular as a writer that jumped out at me. One was really hilariously when Syril had just really done a good job. And he got back to Coruscant and was meeting with Dedra and Pendergast. What is Dedra's
The
boss's name?
ISB leader.
Yeah, the ISB chief.
I'll Google for it while you're doing
Yeah,
it.
thank you, Derek. I think it's something like Pentagrass. Anyway, Pentagrass is standing there, and Syril is reporting on the Ghorman front and how bad they suck. And he is like, they are very eager but incredibly inexperienced. And Pentagrass looks right over at Dedra and says, "Interesting how often those two attributes align." And you just knew he was talking about Syril being eager but incredibly inexperienced, or words to that effect. I laughed out loud at Nathan's house, and then later today, when Mita was watching them with me, I was cracking up right before he said the line. I did the horrible thing of all, "This is going to be so funny, watch." While she had not seen the episode yet, but it was I didn't actually say that. Partagas, thank you.
Yeah.
And then later, speaking of writing, there's also a really great moment involving Partagas as well. He is talking to the crew of the ISB squad, and a guy whom I didn't recognize is reporting on all of these various prisoners that they have arrested. And he basically says, "We haven't finished interrogating them yet." And Pendergrass is like, "Well, what the heck are you doing? We're supposed to be professionals." And Lonnie, the guy who is Luthen's mole within the ISB, chimes in to sort of run cover for his fellow ISB agent and says, "Commander Pendergrass," or whatever his rank is, "we are arresting too many people. We need more places to process people because we have more prisoners than we have space. We are just like drowning in prisoners." First of all, very prescient about the current state of our beloved USA. For those who are international listeners, President Trump's regime has been discussing apportioning off sections of military bases around our country to hold various immigrants that he is arresting because they don't have enough space to hold all the prisoners. So there's at least one Air Force base in California that is going to have to set apart part of their facility to hold more of these people because we have too many prisoners. We're running out of space. I was just aghast at how prescient that was. But secondly, it shows that the Empire in our story their reach is extending beyond their grasp. So the more you tighten your grip, the more systems will slip through your fingers. However, because this is Tony Gilroy and not George Lucas or Rick McCullum or any of the other crew that normally write the movies, Gilroy then has an excellent scene later in this triplet where Luthen and his assistant are arguing about the hidden microphone at Skunland's palace and how they're going to have to go retrieve it. And Luthen is very upset with her for just having that microphone there in the first place that could be immediately traced back to them. He doesn't see the point of it. He feels like it's not worthwhile to get information from Skunland and basically says to her, all these trails of communication and all this data, we're just drowning in information. We have too much of it. We can't process all of the stuff that we're taking in from our data sources. So it's a perfect light side, dark side dichotomy. The dark side is overwhelmed by its own aggression because it keeps arresting too many people. And the light side is overwhelmed by its own contemplativeness because they spend too much time gathering data and thinking about it instead of acting upon it. And so it shows that Luthen very much is having to resort to the methods of his enemies because he is drowning in too much intake, just like the Empire is currently drowning in too much intake, because they're both sides of the same coin, because Sidious Palpatine has set up once again the perfect storm because he thrives on chaos, disorder, and war and aggression as a dark side Sith master. And so he's playing Luthen against the ISB more so than either one of those groups realize. And it also, to me, proved that the Empire is not going to succeed because they're overwhelmed by their, prisoner problem. And Luthen is not going to succeed because he's overwhelmed by trying to be aggressively gathering this information. You're not going to win this war against the dark side by adopting their tactics. You're just going to get overwhelmed in a whole different way and end up serving Palpatine. So that's why this rebellion does not succeed until Luke takes the mantle of Jedi and goes to confront his father in a non-violent way at the Death Star 2. And that means Gilroy took his storyline and wrote it in concert with what Lucas did in 1983 with Return of the Jedi. And I just stood up and was like, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen, when Luthen was talking about how he was a mirror of the ISB guys who were overwhelmed with too much intake, because it's a churning war machine until Luke realizes the answer to winning this fight is to not fight. I can't kill my own father. And that is what causes Anakin to finally fulfill the prophecy. Spoiler alert from 1983, gang. I, as you can tell, was jumping up and down. Loved these 3 episodes way more so than the previous 3. And I really enjoyed the previous 3. But that's definitely, the writing was my favorite part about this week's triplet.
Well, I was surprised you didn't say the actual scene too with Ben Mendelsohn as director Krennic in the artwork gallery. I mean, that was phenomenal between him
really
and Genevieve O'Reilly as Mon Mothma, right?
Yeah.
Where they're just basically bickering and debating and talking about the different, sides of 2 coins, to your point, right?
Mm-hmm.
And and it was just some great dialogue. And it was
and
to your
Lonnie,
point,
Yeah, and Lonnie and Luthen's assistant were using that to run interference while she is turning that thing so hard it cuts her hand. And such a great metaphor right there of how the thing that she was using as her tool is hurting her.
Yeah.
Anyway,
well, then I loved it at the end too when they're leaving the party. He's like, "Well, you could have just shot Krennic right there."
Yeah, she was like, Luthen was like, "We should have killed Krennic while we were up there." Truer words.
And then the building exploded. Wait, nope, sorry, different storyline.
Wrong
other building. So
yeah. All right.
I agree with you, Scott. The writing again was back to season 1 writing.
Yeah.
It's never left because obviously you still have Tony Gilroy and team writing it. But yeah, it just felt a lot more to your point, Nathan, right? First 3 episodes was again kind of reestablishing, since it had been like 4 years since we got season 1. So
yeah. All right, moving on to question 2. I was so excited to answer question 1 there that I forgot to do the special effects. So anyway, here we go. Derek, what did you dislike about these 3 episodes?
So, again, I don't think there's too much that I disliked about this. The only thing I would say I probably disliked about this was that these, 4 arcs we're going to get were supposed to be a season apiece. And that's the bad part, is that we're getting all this, which, again, phenomenal stuff, phenomenal writing, phenomenal, all that, where it's just like, imagine had we gotten all these things, this 3 episodes, the build out over like 12 episodes over a season, right? Like those types of things where I'm not saying it felt rushed. Like I felt like the stories were good. It felt complete. I felt like there was like leaving too many gap holes. Again, there was some great messaging. We didn't really even talk about, Biggs now, doing drugs for coping, all this stuff and the messages that they're trying to do with that. And she's hiding that from Cassian, right? Like he doesn't even know that. Now, Luthen was aware of it, probably because he's the one, dealing it with her and having her, writing a prescription or whatever she's getting for it. I'm trying to think, like, is there anything that I would say is I might have had something and then we were talking about it, just how great these episodes were. And I've kind of forgotten about it.
I talked you out of
it. Probably the one thing I would say, and again, it's to your point, is maybe because of Luthen drowning in so much and trying to be this big, massive, like all these pods everywhere, trying to do all this stuff. And like you would have thought he was out for the long haul, but all of a sudden recently he's changed that, right? To his perspective of like, we don't have time for this, right? Like we need to do, like the Ghormans are willing to act. And I know he's always been willing to sacrifice people, but at the same time, it just kind of felt out of place for Luthen on this one, I would say, where it didn't seem like in character. Like, had we known, like maybe in the first 3 episodes, like Luthen was dying or something like that from like some disease or something, where he only had like, 4 years to live or something, where, that might be, but that would probably be the only thing that just seemed a little off with his character, where I was glad that Cassian made that decision that like, this is stupid. Like we shouldn't be dealing with these people. But to me, that would have felt more like that would have been Luthen versus Cassian. Like Cassian, I agree with it. That's his character too. Cause he's grown over, because in season 1, right, like when he's in the prison, like he's got to get off, he's got to do all these things, like he's not going to play the long game for that. So it just kind of like seemed like now they're switching roles, which is fine, but it just seemed a little off that like what pressed Luthen now that like he feels like he needs to act, but then yet he's got all these separate pods where nobody's really even still together.
Yeah, it was a little confusing to see him accelerate. And I'll segue into what I liked the least about that as well. But I think that the main impetus may have been the whole, oh gosh, this microphone at Skunland's place can be traced directly back to us. And if that happens, we got to be prepared to, go out in a blaze of glory. It's kind of what the assistant said to him. Mm-hmm. But during that whole segment where he goes and talks to Bix and she's doing the drugs and all of that stuff, it segued into my least favorite part. It was when Bix was watching TV and she saw Coruscant Today, and the 2 creepy plastic surgery queens were on the screen talking about the investiture night. Investiture? Is that right? Anyway,
whatever, the party night, yeah.
The big parties for the new senators. And so I kind of felt like the way they looked, talked, acted, the idea of a new show in Star Wars, it's always been weird. I realized that was a thing all the way back to the holiday special, but I'm one of these people that doesn't think of the holiday special as canon. George Lucas shares that opinion with me. And so I felt like it was a little out of place in Star Wars, especially in a story from Andor. Now, I know that there's been a whole segment about the Ministry of Enlightenment or whatever they call it, which is their PR firm there for the Empire. So that's obviously a thing, but that's like government propaganda. It's not like broadcast television, which is what this felt like. Because remember, this is Star Wars, so we're analog, we're not digital. So this is some sort of transmission. And I know that Ezra Bridger had like a underground radio transmission thing happening in Star Wars Rebels, He Who Shall Not Be Named included media storylines in his Star Wars Aftermath novels. It's a thing. It's a thing that I've not really enjoyed in Star Wars because it seems out of place to me for some reason. And this particular television show that Bix was watching felt like more of a clip from The Hunger Games.
I was going to agree with you on that.
Those 2 ladies looked like Hunger Games hosts. I mean, right down to the crazy hair color and all that stuff. So it kind of took me out of it for a minute. And then I was very disappointed that after that scene where she's laying on the mattress, kind of junkie-esque strung out, watching this with her hand on a blaster, she did not kill her television because the 1980s punk in me wanted her to kill your television. I really wanted her to just be like blam and shoot the TV to make those 2 old crazy ladies shut up, but she didn't do that part. So this was my least favorite part of the Hunger Games. I mean, Star Wars television series.
Weirdly, those 2 ladies, one lady, both of them portrayed by Ruby Wax.
Oh,
so same actress playing both characters.
Well, their names rhymed too, so that kind of makes sense.
Moffy and Toffee, yeah.
Yeah.
So
it's like Coda and whatever was it? Who is it? Before, who are the 2 in the morning?
Hoda and Kathy Lee Gifford.
Kathy Lee, yeah, Kathy and Hoda, right? They're always drunk and doing all this stuff. So,
well, I won't say they're always drunk on the air, although I think at least once they were proven to be drunk on the air.
They've maybe not so much anymore, but maybe 10 years to
well, now
both
of them have retired from it's the Today Show Hour 3. Both of them have retired, but now it's like President Bush's oldest daughter and a dude who I don't know are handling.
Oh,
that
Michael
part of the
Strahan?
Today Show. I don't think it's Michael Strahan. It might be. Anyways, I don't watch a lot of
Just-
NBC
anyways.
anymore. I'm more of a CBS guy, but yeah.
On to my least favorite thing about
Yes,
this
go,
episode.
Nathan, go.
So Derek kind of stole mine, which was this 3-episode arc really could have been a season, and I understand why they aren't doing it that way. Cassian has a limited shelf life of how long he is alive, and Cassian is younger in these episodes than he was in Rogue One, but the actor is not.
Diego Luna is not younger than he
Diego
was.
Luna will continue to age, and if they did this, 4 years for every season, and they did 4 more seasons, by the time he's 16 years older, he's not going to be able to portray himself as younger than he was in Rogue One. So I get why they're doing it this way, but it's still disappointing that this wasn't a full season. I would really have liked to have seen, particularly the Ghorman arc, stretch out across a whole season and get more of what they were doing and why they were doing it and why they failed. The whole thing could have made for a whole season.
Mm-hmm.
So since Derek took that one, I'm going to go with my second least favorite thing about this series of episodes, and that isn't something in the episodes themselves. It's something that's missing from the episodes. B2EMO, as far as we know, is still on that harvest planet going, Cassian?
He's still waiting for him in the Rebel Moon fan fiction.
whole year later, just any day now, Cassian's going to come back and pick me up.
Yeah.
Well, the problem is they're on Coruscant, and 2, not out of his own fault, but B2 is a snitch.
Yeah, but
he doesn't do it on purpose. But...
Surely someone could have gone and got him at some point in time. But hey, Cassian's on Coruscant. I'm taking you to him. Have him, in the apartment or something. We would have understood that. Yeah, we went back and got him. But nope. As far as we know, he's still just hanging out there.
He's a snitch. That reminds me
he just doesn't keep his mouth shut. You know what I'm saying?
It reminds me of Cassian at the coffee shop on Ghorman, where he's like, "How do you know I'm not a snitch? And you're my payday. You just put everyone you care about into a cell. You've got to be more careful." Because he was right,
Yeah. Oh yeah. Cassian was the only person on Ghorman who has any knowledge of spycraft and how to do it, and I am including the Imperials here. Because
I was so hoping that the Ghorman front would tell Cassian, "Oh, we know that our information about the supply convoys from the Imperials is spot on because we have a guy on the inside. Look, there he is right there." So that Cassian could have been all like, that guy is not a spy. He is a cop. He's crooked as they come. He's totally
he's
feeding
ISB or something. Yeah. So.
No, he's former ISB. He was fired. They covered that in his backstory, in the false information
it's false
that they provided to the Ghorman rebels. He was fired from the ISB, and that would explain a lot, wouldn't it? Well, conveniently, that explains a lot because it's designed to explain a lot. The ISB actually went through and thought, what would explain everything about this? We fired him.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
all right,
well, that would be his
to...
vengeful thing of why he would help the Ghormans, right? That's what.
Yeah, it gives him motivation. Yep, he's got motive.
Well, and I was surprised, Scott, because you didn't bring this up last week because you mentioned it for your dislike this week. Because that was one of the things that really caught me off guard last week when they did the whole secret room and they played the video about Ghorman. Like it was like a projector TV screen, right? Like that just felt so out of place. You know what I mean?
It was a little wonky. It was very much, this is a corporate meeting. Here's the PowerPoint presentation. Yeah. I was like
I would have been fine if it was like a hologram, like reenactment or something. Like here's, your daily feed, they would have had that, but
and we've seen that sort of thing before with projections of
the Death Star
people.
Plans.
The Death Star plans. We saw projections of people in Rebels as a news broadcast.
Or the skeleton crew, with the holiday special circus. That's how I thought it was going to be. But it was like the projector. I'm like, oh, we've got TVs now.
So we had the projector, which was almost a film strip, like you said, Derek, and then Bix is just watching TV. If it had been holograms, I would have been a little more on board with it. Like that's what they watch in Star Wars. They don't, because I also struggled a little in Skeleton Crew with the tablet thingy, but it had to be like an analog tablet. That
Yeah,
the
he
kid
was flipping
using
through the pages essentially with it.
Yeah, and I was like, we could have just done a book, you guys. You know.
Yeah, at least with that one, it's this is a planet that has been cut off from the rest of the galaxy, so it makes a little more sense that their technology is slightly different. They've progressed slightly differently. They haven't gotten all of the latest technology from the rest of the galaxy. So we're still using these books. I agree with you here. Seeing that the
TV,
the CTR type television,
CRT, cathode ray tube.
I was sitting here going, cathode tube ray. That's not right.
Wrong kind of ray. Anyway,
Ray,
and not critical race theory either.
Not critical race theory.
Right.
Much older than that.
But point being, it definitely felt like somebody found an old television in our universe and was just like, and here you go. Which, I mean, granted, they do have that sort of screen like on Star Destroyers, so it kind of makes sense, but it felt a little out of place too.
Yeah, it just seems like, again, the future, especially since we have what we call it, like if that would have been like further along, it'd be one thing, right? Or it was like something top secret, but it just felt like I said, just a normal PowerPoint presentation in the office,
Yeah.
And it wasn't even like grainy either. Like had it been grainy, like, they actually had to use like an actual film, like 35 millimeter, like it'd be different.
I know Gilroy and the production design team probably wanted to evoke Nazi propaganda films, because even the guys, definitely. Like the narrator of that film was all, it's a beautiful day in Ghorman, and everyone here is very proud to serve the Empire with their spiders and their.
Oh, is this the same guy who did Clone Wars?
I don't think so.
I'm 99% sure. No.
That would have been great if they did, though. That would have been a nice Easter egg.
That would have been great. But no, Tom King is Tom King, right? I think that's his name. He was.
Oh, no, I thought it was Tom Kane.
Tom Kane. Sorry, Kane, not King. Kane. He was ill for a while.
Oh, that's right. He had the stroke.
I think he may have passed. I can't.
No, he's still alive.
He's still alive. Okay.
Yeah, but I'm not sure that he can. He has definitely retired from voice acting, and I'm not sure that he.
He's the one who had the stroke, right?
He did. Yes.
I knew he had a stroke. I thought.
So he couldn't do it anymore. So fair enough.
That is why he retired from voice acting.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if he's like incapable of it at this point. In which case,
I don't think he can. I don't think he could strain his voice anymore with it. So
yeah.
Well, it's totally fine, but it would have been great had it been the capability to do that, and they might have at that point he'd still be able to do it. To your point.
Yeah, but he's not listed as being in it, so it's definitely not him. But there is, I think, an interesting point in that PowerPoint presentation. We were talking before the show about the spiders, and Derek, you said that you felt like the spiders were bigger when you saw
the way they portrayed them. Yeah,
I think that goes back to this is propaganda. I think you are supposed to feel like these spiders are like 3 or 4 meters big, like bigger than humans, and could absolutely eat you. And because we're likening the Ghormans to these spiders, and we want people to feel like the Ghormans are dangerous.
A threat.
Yeah, they're a threat. So we make the spiders seem like they're dangerous by shooting them in such a way that they appear much bigger than they actually are. And then you get to Ghorman, and it turns out they could fit in the palm of your hand. They're not really dangerous at all.
Yeah. All right. Well, speaking of things that we were supposed to think, let's move on to question 3. What connections were you able to draw with the rest of the Star Wars galaxy? And I'll go first this time because I've got one quick one. And I know that you guys have probably many others, but my favorite one was Dakar. It was cool to see the planet Dakar and the hidden base, place we're going to hang out as the Rebellion, because astute observers of the Skywalker saga will note that Dakar is the planet where the Resistance hangs out when they're fighting against the First Order in The Force Awakens, and then for a little bit of time in The Last Jedi, when Captain Kennedy and all of those guys from the First Order start attacking the Resistance base there on Dakar, and the Resistance has to flee. It's the last place where Han Solo and Princess Leia talk to each other as he heads off to help destroy Starkiller Base with Poe Dameron and the gang. I thought it was really neat to see that, just like the Rebellion base that they utilize at the end of The Last Jedi on Crate, this is an old Rebellion base that they've been using on Dakar, which makes perfect sense because, Admiral Leia is there to tell them about where they could go to hide out and do stuff, because she remembers it from her days as part of the Rebellion. And it's neat to see that this kind of stuff in a galaxy rife with war, over and over, this kind of stuff just keeps getting reused. Which is a cool nod to the fact that Star Wars is definitely all about the wars amongst the stars. So I was like, oh, Dakar, that's pretty cool. Look at those hangars. Look at those grassy fields. And of course, the bigwigs at Lucasfilm were like, we still have all these buildings left over from The Force Awakens. Let's shoot some on them. We can save some money that way. And hey, I'm all for it. Nathan, what connections were you able to draw?
Well, the big one is Rhydonium. This is a type of starship fuel that we do see in other parts of Star Wars. It showed up both in the Clone Wars and in Rebels. In Rebels, Sabine uses it as an explosive device, and actually gets used as explosive material quite often. It's also used as explosive material in the Clone Wars. This is actually the stuff that they were getting on the planet where Gregor was, the clone who got amnesia and wasn't sure that or didn't even know that he was a clone. And D Squad came in and basically helped him figure out that, nope, you are a clone. What the Separatists were doing at that time was getting Rhydonium from that planet. So some cool connections there. Not super clear on some things about the Rhydonium, so we will circle back around to that later this episode. But that's the big connection that I saw.
All right, cool. Derek, what connections were you able to draw?
It was just really just if you compare season 2 to season 1, especially some of the ways that they were doing these last couple of episodes, right? If you look at the way Cassian was doing this art design, whatever you want to say, scholar or whatever. The way like the outfit looked just like, is it what Freya, right? Is, if I'm thinking, Mon Mothma's cousin, right?
Yes.
Or no, Vel, sorry.
Vel.
Yeah.
So
Vel, I thought he was actually wearing her outfit, the way it looked. It looked very similar to when she came back to Coruscant. After they did their heist, and the same thing with the heist too, right? They're doing it in the sewer. They're using gravity as they're moving the guns down, and moving them onto another cargo ship, right? Essentially, from one thing to the next. So, just a little bit of comparison there. And then obviously, there was some of the items that you could see in the artwork show, like you talked about, were some pretty cool stuff. So. Otherwise, like I said, I don't really think of anything. I mean, obviously, we get to see Saw Gerrera's kind of like the way he's doing things again, the way he's running his camp, and with the X-Wings and stuff. We didn't, I'm guessing, I'm trying to think, because he didn't, did Saw Gerrera shoot anyone in Rogue One? He didn't shoot anyone that was a traitor, right?
I was going to say he definitely shot someone in this.
Well, that's what I'm saying. He shot someone. I was trying to remember if he shot somebody in Rogue One as a traitor when he brought in.
No, but he was thoroughly convinced that traitors were everywhere.
Yeah.
So, I mean, his paranoia obviously keeps growing. And that's the whole point of Borg Gullet. I was listening to Rebel Force Radio and their analysis earlier this week, and Jimmy Mack began to theorize that thanks to all the Rhydonium that Saw is addicted to, Borg Gullet isn't real. And he's like, Borg Gullet is a hallucination from Saw Gerrera. But Jason, the other host, quickly corrected him and said, I think Bodhi Rook would tell you that Borg Gullet is real. And I don't think he was addicted to Rhydonium. And Joe Jimmy was like, oh, yeah, you're right. Never mind. The tentacles do go into someone else's head. So never mind. Borg Gullet is real. Borg Gullet will know the truth. That's still going to be the thing.
That to me was still the strangest part of Rogue One, because Bodhi didn't seem to actually suffer too many lasting ill effects from that.
Well, he only had it happen one time, so maybe you have to do it more than once. Right?
Or if your brain is not already addled from Rhydonium inhalation, then Borg Gullet is all like, I don't know why everybody keeps thinking I'm killing their brains. Their brains were dead before I started tentacling them. It's like, calm down, Bodhi. I just want to ask you some questions. I didn't even know you spoke common. Oh, I don't. This is all hallucination.
But yeah, no, I mean, I'm trying to think. I mean, because like even one of the things I noticed about like Coruscant, even where the Cassian and Biggs go shopping, like they're still like in the upper portions of Coruscant. Yeah. They're not like in the depths. Like I thought that they would have been
much worse.
Yeah, I mean, you get obviously,
yeah.
Clone Wars Episode 2.
I believe they said the apartment's on level 4,888. So
they're still seeing sky, is what I'm saying. Like you can see the sky.
But right? My point is, that's almost 5,000 levels up from the lower level. So
it's a long.
Yeah, I also loved the way that Cassian looked when he was undercover as Valerian Sky, fashion designer. And then when he came back to see Bix and she's like, how did it go? And he's like, it was different. I was a fashion designer, Valerian Sky. I was very cute, very well dressed. And she's like, he sounds amazing. And Cassian is all like, yes, he's definitely your type of guy. And she's like, you're going to have to bring him home someday. I was like, okay. I love the way he kept saying the name. And then Luthen asked him, who were you this time? I was Valerian Sky, fashion designer. And I'm like, this is almost as good as I'm Lando Calrissian, administrator of this facility. Anyway, let's move on to question 4. Nathan was dropping hints. The question is about Rhydonium. What the heck is it?
Yeah, so what is the deal with the Rhydonium, and how does it relate to the fact that Saw's people accompanied Enfys Nest to get the coaxium in Solo? Because Rhydonium, at heart, is starship fuel, and so is coaxium. But Rhydonium is much more volatile than coaxium. Now, I realize that coaxium is volatile in its raw state, but once you refine it, then it becomes stable. Rhydonium, not so much. It's pretty volatile just all the time. In fact, it gets used as explosives, I mentioned, in the Clone Wars and in Rebels, and actually even in The Mandalorian. So they're still using Rhydonium many years after this. If they've got such a good access to Rhydonium, why do they need the coaxium in Solo?
See, and I thought, until you just explained what the difference between the two compounds was, I thought that Rhydonium was like a fuel to use for like atmospheric flight, because you know how TIE fighters and X-Wings, unlike a lot of your other space franchises, their starships can move through space, but they're not for flying around in atmosphere. Whereas X-Wings and TIE fighters and Lambda-class shuttles and all that jazz fly around in atmosphere like all the time. But I thought maybe it was a case of we use coaxium to fly through hyperspace, and we use Rhydonium to do all the other maneuvering. Sort of like in Star Trek, where you have a warp drive, but that's only to go faster than the speed of light. Then you have impulse engines, which run on a whole different system of power and fuel that you use to maneuver around planets or orbits or to go into atmosphere and so forth. But now you're saying that that's not really it. You could use Rhydonium to make the jump to light speed?
It might be the case, because both of them are kind of nebulous starship fuel, and neither one of them is it particularly well explained, like what is this fuel actually used for. Now we know that coaxium is used for the faster than light travel. We see that. The Rhydonium, it's just kind of, yes, this is starship fuel. We use it to fuel our starships.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wish they would have
what
been
do
like
they-
one was Starship, one was like vehicle fuel or something. Like so you knew
Yeah,
the difference,
something.
right?
Yeah, that would have been nice, but nope.
Nope.
They're both
'Cause to
Starship
me-
Muddying
fuel.
the water some more.
It was kind of feeling like one of these is unleaded and one of them is leaded, or maybe one of these
One's
is gasoline,
diesel.
one is
Yeah.
diesel, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, or even one of these is moonshine that you can run your car on.
It's like putting kerosene in the tank. You will go fast, but not for long.
But yeah, there is a third type of fuel, Ipsium, that was introduced
Mm-hmm.
in the Bad Batch. So we have all sorts of fuel that we.
It's a big galaxy.
It is a big galaxy, and I'm not sure that we have very well defined differences.
Maybe it's
maybe-
like ones like European style starships need this kind of fuel, and like maybe TIE fighters run on this, X-wings run on that, and A-wings and cloud cars run on Ipsium. Maybe it's like that. It's not like
That-
comparing.
Or maybe
diesel,
one's cleaner for
gasoline.
the environment, the other one isn't. Could be. Or
I mean,
one
right-
tears up your engine worse than the other.
Rhydonium is not clean for the environment because of how explosive it is. I'm looking at a picture of a Venator class Star Destroyer that has been exposed to, shall we say, some Rhydonium. Boom.
Yeah. See, this is why in real life I don't bother with fuel, with gasoline, diesel, or anything else like that. I just run my car on energy. I don't have an onboard reactor. Less explosions that way. Anyway.
Yes, statistically, electric cars do catch on fire less often than gasoline vehicles.
And they certainly explode less often than
That's
gasoline
true, yeah.
vehicles. Although to that point, though, diesel also explodes less often than gasoline. That's one of the major benefits of diesel fuel.
Well,
but like
you
I said,
know-
I prefer just don't have a reactor on board.
Yeah, but maybe that
Still have
is
a battery.
maybe that kind of is the difference. Rhydonium is gasoline, and Ipsium is diesel, and coaxium is
Corn fuel.
At the moment.
sure.
But yeah, yes, Derek, still have a battery, a gigantic battery, but it's not causing any sort of reaction. It's not like a warp drive or a hyperdrive or an internal combustion engine. It is not reacting to generate the energy. It just holds the energy that it gets
Correct.
from somewhere else.
But it still can explode.
It can, but the odds of that happening are closer to me winning the lottery or getting struck by lightning, which is also electric.
Actually, you have a better chance of getting struck by lightning than winning the lottery.
I probably have a better chance of getting struck by lightning than my electric car exploding too, because they're
Well, hopefully
almost
the
same.
car's not getting struck by the lightning, which causes it.
Yeah, so now if the car got struck by the
would prevent
lightning,
that.
yeah, then I'm sure it would ruin the car, especially an EV. It would ruin it. 'cause
Well,
the
that's why you
battery-
should stay away from
overload.
Sith side. So
That's right.
it is.
Unlimited power, very bad.
Yeah.
When you get down to it. So, question 5, because I feel
Yeah,
like
well,
quick-
Derek. Yeah, Derek,
quick-
get your
Well,
answer here.
I mean, there's not really much there. I mean, obviously, we've kind of been talking about it. I mean, I think it's kind of a simple answer there to what Nathan. But I do remember what my original dislike was going to be before I actually gave the answer because it was a joke. My answer was that when Biggs killed Dr. Gorst, she didn't take his treat. I was really hoping she would have taken his treat and then, but she just left it there. So I felt, like that was a wasted, that looked like a gourmet, Cheesecake Factory thing that's like $15 a slice,
if they do not have those on sale
At Galaxy's Edge.
at Galaxy's Edge,
yeah,
there's a lot of things that Disney's not doing from a good marketing standpoint. Just to let
I
you know.
also feel like we should get the Neonian tea or whatever as an option to drink. That the thing that Cassian was drinking at the cafe on Ghorman. Yeah, absolutely.
So what you're telling me is Nintendo's doing a better job because if
They
you
are.
look at
Everything Epic
Nintendo-
Universe is doing, yes.
Yeah, if you look at Nintendo World's food, they've got a lot of.
Oh yeah, that dessert that looks like the little 3D Mario thing, and it's got like the little flag at the top. Yeah,
like everything, all the food that you can buy there has some relation to.
no, Disney's stinking it up. So,
Eh.
anyways, but that's what I thought would have been hilarious, especially after when it happened, the explosion. Like, how funny would that have been? Like, Biggs would have then pulled out the dessert and started eating it while they were walking away.
That would have been great.
That would have been cool.
All right, question number 5.
All right. So my question was, so speaking of the ending with the explosion, so is with Cassian going rogue. So those on YouTube can see us with me saying rogue in air quotes, and those that are listening to the podcast can say rogue in air quotes. Do you think we'll have multiple rebel factions now that Luthen will start to lose enough control that he'll try to reel them all back in by killing off these quote unquote faction leaders?
My answer is yes, absolutely. We'll have multiple rebel factions. We pretty much have that by the time we get to Rogue One, because Saw Gerrera's crew and the partisans seem to sort of be doing their own thing separate from Mon Mothma and Bail Organa that we see talking to Jyn Erso in Rogue One. And I think that it takes a strong personality like Leia to really coalesce the entirety of the rebellion. And of course, Mon Mothma is still involved in the leadership of the rebellion all the way through Return of the Jedi. And I'm pretty sure Bail Organa would have been as well, except he gets killed when Alderaan is destroyed by the Death Star. Presumably, if I know Marvel Comics and Star Wars Marvel Comics, they might actually end up doing some crazy thing where actually Senator Organa survived but had to go underground, and even his own family thought he was dead. So, I mean, I would read that. I gotta be honest, I'd buy that comic because I'd be like, "Oh, this is cool."
Just talk them into doing it, Scott. If they're going to buy it, then they'll make it. So,
how far underground do you have to be to survive
no
the
ground.
Star destroying, or excuse me, the Death Star destroying the planet?
Well, what I mean is he wasn't on
He'd
planet.
have to be off planet, yeah.
He was off planet, but then when it gets blown up, maybe, I could see Mon Mothma and perhaps Saw himself also convincing him, hey, let everyone think you got killed as part of Alderaan's tragedy because that'll make it even more impactful. And then, he shows up talking to Leia sometime between the original Star Wars A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back. Because, they had a whole storyline in Marvel Star Wars comics this past year where Vader interacted with some of Padme's handmaidens who were still alive and blamed him for Padme's death and tried to, get revenge on Vader.
If they really wanted to make it poignant, but still explain why Bail Organa wouldn't be around in Return of the Jedi, have it be that the Empire captured him too, and they have him on the Death Star. And after Leia gets rescued, he somehow breaks out and is actively hindering the Death Star from, getting to Yavin on time. And
that'd be cool.
He knows that what he's doing has an ultimate goal of get myself killed because I'm trying to give my daughter a chance to blow up the station that I'm on.
Yeah. I don't know, though. I kind of, at this point, after Rogue One itself, feel like the whole people sabotage the Death Star ahead of time has been done enough. I don't want Luke to have had 5 people helping him on the inside when he made that one in a million shot Destiny calling moment, Anyway. But yeah, so Nathan, what's your answer? We're going to have multiple rebel factions?
Well, we definitely will have multiple rebel factions. We already have multiple rebel factions. The real question is, how do we get these rebel factions together? And I think that's part of the question here is, is Luthen going to start killing off some of the leaders so that they have to join up? Some of the leaders are kind of killing themselves off. Going back to last week's episodes, the Maripel, terrible fighters there.
Maya Pei.
Sorry. But
mea culpa regarding Maya Pei.
They already got rid of their leader themselves. He didn't have to do anything with them.
Well, then didn't Luthen talk to Saw in season 1 about a raid by a particular oafish leader of a rebel cell, and he was all like, "Well, that guy got killed, but serves him right," or something along those lines.
It's war.
Yeah. So I don't think Luthen would actively go and kill the leaders himself or send Cassian to kill a leader, but I would not put it past Luthen to set up a situation where this particular leader will have a high likelihood of not surviving this particular mission. Go fight there, and then everybody else falls. It's like what David did in the Bible to Bathsheba's husband. Okay, we put him on the front lines. Everybody else, take a step back. Oh, he died in combat. What a coincidence. I could see him doing that sort of thing to get rid of some of the more problematic leaders. But that raises the question of why keep Saul? Saul
doesn't trust anyone.
Yeah, he's so wily he won't fall for any of the traps.
Yeah.
That's true. I always think everything is a trap. That's probably why I'm still alive.
Yep.
I mean, he obviously killed a guy because he said he was a spy or a traitor. So
Yeah, which
shot him right in the face, even after they spent like weeks from Will trying to train him on how to do whatever.
Which I'm not 100% convinced that Two Tubes didn't just plant some evidence there.
Yeah, and Saul was all like, there's an ambush waiting for us on Markev 5 or whatever. And I'm like, how does he know there's an ambush on Markev 5? I mean, presumably he could have some mole in the Imperial fleet that was all like, Saul, don't come to Markev 5 or whatever.
Well,
but I'm like, maybe he's just making this up.
I thought it was because he gave the guy where he was going, where they were going to attack. So he knows he relayed that. So he knows now it's a trap. So now they're going to have some other
But
place.
my question is, how does Saw know that Pluti relayed that information to the Empire? Did someone else? Well, yeah, but did someone else in the Empire confirm to Saw, hey, don't come to the moon?
How does he know he was a spy, essentially?
That's my question is...
I think because he was asking, like he was playing, like, oh, I'd feel really better if you told me. And I think he was just taking a risk thinking he was a spy.
I think that Saul thought he was a spy because he asked, which one are we going to? And then from there, just assumed he must be a spy. So if whatever I tell him, he's going to relay back. So there will be an ambush there. Whether there actually is or not, there may not have been, because he may not have been a spy. He may have gone, if he doesn't have something that proves that he's a spy, just when you go check the body, make sure, whoops, here we go. And it could be his own paranoia that caused him to kill this guy who may have been loyal to him in the first place. Also, he may have just thought, you know what, this guy's not learning the stuff quickly enough, even if he's not a spy. He's not doing us any good. Now, the real problem here is we all knew that he wasn't in Rogue One. So we're looking around going, which of these characters is going to die?
Pretty much. It's kind of like when I saw Two Tube's brother. I'm like, well, that guy's got to get killed. Two Tube's brother is not in Rogue One.
Yeah, the only question was, is this guy going to get killed by Saul or blow himself up trying to get the Rhydonium, which I think is what's going to happen to Wilmon.
He's going to blow himself up.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, wasn't that what they were breaking into, though, the first time? Getting
the Rhydonium?
Yeah. Wasn't that what they broke into, the vault there?
Oh, yeah.
They successfully got some.
Yeah. But when you transport Rhydonium, there's still a pretty good chance you're going to blow yourself up.
Well, also,
they're not going to jump to a year from now, though. So I mean, I guess it's off screen, or you're saying no. Second stash.
Saul has been talking about how we can get as much Rhydonium as we want. He's not going to be happy with however much Rhydonium they got.
They're going for another one. Sorry.
They'll keep going back, and I think in the next one, it's going to be we've been doing this for the whole past year, and we've got so much Rhydonium that I now have the breathing apparatus, and Wilmon is not doing great, and then Wilmon will mess up, and ba-boom.
Yeah.
Or he'll be loyal, and Saul will just kill him because he's freaking paranoid.
That's also a possibility.
Speaking of people getting killed in this show, last episode of the podcast, we talked about who we expected to die next, and Nathan gets half a point for almost getting it right. Nathan, go ahead and explain.
Yeah, so I predicted that Cinta would kill her girlfriend for operational necessity reasons. Will just be that, hard of a fighter. Like, the mission comes first, and for whatever reason, you're in a position where you are compromised. I hate it for you, but blam.
But you gotta die.
Yeah. Turns out not the case, but one of them did die. Unfortunately for me, because I liked this character better, it was Cinta, and not in a operational necessity way, but in a, we told you not to bring a blaster. You brought a blaster anyway. You stopped a guy who would have been on our side.
Yeah, that didn't make any sense.
And why not just tell him, hey, look, there's an operation going on here. I get that he tried to tell him, hey, don't go this way, but you can inform him a little bit better.
Yeah.
And not pull a gun.
Yeah, he's on your side. Why would you pull a gun on him to begin with?
Right. Yeah. Just, hey, dangerous situation ahead. Be forewarned. You walk into it, you're in our group.
Had there been like a better interaction earlier, to your point, Nathan, of those two? Because obviously they were all at that town hall meeting, and the older guy was obviously very vocal and against the kid's father. But had they actually had an altercation, where they were getting into a scuffle or something and had to be separated at the town hall, where you knew there was a bit more bad blood, then maybe that would have made a little bit more sense. Reason why it should have been a season and not just 3 episodes.
Right. Yeah. And I know this is a little bit off topic from the death itself, but I love that we got some hand gestures. We got both the greeting hand gesture, where they're kind of opening their cloak. And I can't remember who I saw say this, but our handshake is to show the other person that you are unarmed. That's why we shake hands with the right hand, because that's usually the weapon hand. Going back to the biblical thing, there was at least one guy who was left-handed, and that fooled somebody. Shout out to our friend Ehud Will, who really loves that guy. But they do something similar where they act like they're opening their cloak to show we have no weapons. We are unarmed. We are friends. And then we also got the basically our version of yes. we are not giving you the finger, but we are doing our equivalent of it.
Yeah, good times. All right, well, we'll continue our speculation about whether or not Wilmon is actually going to die on future episodes of this podcast. But for now, we'll do Derek's favorite part of the show and then sign off for this episode. And that is, of course, what Star Wars t-shirt are we wearing this week, or what Star Wars merchandise have you got? Nathan, I see that you do have on a really cool shirt.
Yes, it is a Hawaiian shirt. It's got various Star Wars things on it. We've got Stormtrooper. We've got Millennium Falcon. We've got TIE Fighters. We've got X-Wings. Just lots of Star Wars-y things. And like I said earlier in the podcast, I did have several people give me the May the 4th be with you today. It was great. And it's a super comfortable shirt, too. I love it.
Yeah, it looks nice on you. I got my son to be fooled by my Star Wars shirt before the episode of the podcast tonight. He said, Dad, why does your Hamilton shirt have a lightsaber on it? And I said, because it's not a Hamilton shirt. It is, in fact, a Hamill shirt. And, of course, it is a mashup between Hamilton, the yellow background, white star logo of the Hamilton musical. But this is Hamill, like Mark Hamill, and he's looking in the silhouette there like Luke Skywalker with his lightsaber held aloft. So, yeah, I love this shirt. Such a great mashup between two of my favorite things. Derek, what do you got?
So, as I mentioned, we went to Great Wolf Lodge, and I found a shirt there that I wanted to share.
Oh, we've got a Great Wolf Lodge version of the A New Hope poster. And instead of saying, may the force be with you, it says, may the forest be with you. Good times.
Very nice.
And all of our heroes, Luke, Han, Leia, etc., are forest animals, including evil Darth Vader Moose.
Yes, he's a moose. And
Death Star's closed. Moose out front, sure, I told you.
Yeah, C-3PO looks like a deer. R2-D2 is still an R2-D2. He doesn't look any different. And then Luke's a bear, Han's a wolf, and I'm guessing Leia's a fox. And Chewbacca's a beaver. So instead of being big, he's tiny.
He's Chewbucky.
Oh my gosh.
Chewbacca. Now I really want a Bucky Beaver shirt that is Chewbacca. That'd be awesome. A Bucky's Star Wars parody shirt. That would be amazeballs.
Oh,
putting that out into the universe.
Apparently,
people
Obi-Wan is a raccoon. So there you go.
Good times. Well, if you guys out there want your on cool "What a Piece of Junk" t-shirt, please check out our store over at tpublic.com. You can find coffee mugs, mouse pads, iPad cases, phone cases, throw pillows, and of course t-shirts. Not just for What a Piece of Junk, but for all of the great shows here on the FPN. So yeah, I'm sure there's some sales going on over there now if you guys want to check it out. And of course, anything that you do helps with defraying the costs of producing this excellent show and the rest of the FPN content. But that's about it for this episode of What a Piece of Junk. You can, of course, find us all out there on social media in all the usual places, and the show is available for download any place where you catch your pods. So until next time, we want to say thank you to everyone for joining us. Please hit us up between shows so that we can know what we can do to make the show better for you. And as always, please remember to respect each other and respect each other's fandom. All right, Nathan, punch it.